June 6th of 2019 was when Larian released the first Baldur's Gate 3 trailer across multiple popular media sources, and this was in fact the first time that most of us became aware of its development. The trailer takes place in the city of Baldur's Gate, where we got to witness a member of the Flaming Fist go through an excruciating process known as ceramorphosis in world record time. It was a rather horrifying but excellent trailer that left us all wondering what the hell is going on in Baldur's Gate. We got mind flayers in the city and symbols of the Dead 3 painted on the city's walls. At this time, we really had no idea what this game was going to be like, especially considering that the previous Baldur's Gate games came out 19 plus years ago and were not made by Larian Studios. I would also like to mention that in 2019, I was a rather cringy YouTuber whose career was almost ruined before it even started because I pronounced drow as dro.
Fatal mistake.
Then Sven went on to do the same thing and everyone excused it because it was an accent.
So I can play as a tiefling, I can play as a drow.
After about 8 months of silence, on February 18th of 2020, Larian released the World Gameplay Reveal announcement video.
Behold, the secret sauce of Dungeons and Dragons!
In this video, we got to see some behind-the-scenes action at Larian Studios, and most of us quickly realized that this is no small project. Sven Vinka, the creative director and owner at Larian, revealed to us that in just 9 days there will be a live gameplay reveal for Baldur's Gate 3 at PAX East. And I think this may have been the peak of the hype mountain for many of us. To end the announcement video, Larian of course had us leave with a quick cinematic clip of a dragon roaring, and if you were quick enough with your eye, you would have also noticed a Githyanki on the back of that red dragon. So now we have the Dead 3, Mind Flayers, and the Githyanki riding red dragons. Surely enough, 9 days later, on February 27th of 2020 at PAX East, we got to watch the world's first reveal of Baldur's Gate 3 gameplay with the world's best video game hype man.
Hello, everybody!
Before the actual gameplay began, Sven showed us a decent chunk of the intro cinematic to the game. And what an intro that was, as we got to watch a Mind Flayer stick a tadpole in a Githyanki's eye, and also shove one up the player's ass. Oh, wait. That was that other trailer on that one site. Let the speculation begin. After that, we learned that the Mind Flayer is in fact on a nautiloid ship flying over Faerun, and it's sucking people up as it goes. Then out of nowhere, a bunch of ETs on the back of red dragons appear and chase the nautiloid ship all the way into different planes of existence. Lore lovers and theory crafters were in heaven at this point. After the trailer, Sven jumped right into the character creator, where we got to see a preview of some of the origin characters, along with 6 D&D 5e classes and 9 races. Then we had the pleasure of watching Sven party wipe against some intellect devourers.
Man.
Bravo!
But don't worry, he came back like a true champ and mage slapped their little butt cheeks to death.
So I'm gonna just slap it. There you go.
Baldur's Gate 3 gameplay has finally been revealed to us, and while most onlookers appeared to be ecstatically excited, the reveal of turn-based only for combat made some fans of the originals wish they could have mage-handed Sven off that stage. All in all, the gameplay reveal came across as a very genuine reveal from Larian, as opposed to a highly scripted and edited gameplay footage. It was a win in the books for Larian. The following month, Larian did a Reddit AMA where some of the game devs, including Sven, answered questions from the community, and the most notable being that Larian said that they'll be implementing all of the 5e classes and subclasses. At this time, we did not have a date yet for early access, but 3 months later, in June of 2020, Larian released their early access announcement trailer that stated early access will launch in August, maybe. 5 days later, Larian gave us another huge gameplay demonstration at D&D Live, where they demonstrated to us in a rather blurry stream that they are already listening to community feedback. The first major change was to the narration, as it was changed from more of a past tense form to a present tense, a change that many of us fans were very appreciative of. As the gameplay commenced, we also learned that the new initiative order system, if 2 or more party members are next to each other in the order of turns, you can actually freely choose what party member you want to go first, a mechanic that is seemingly aging well as time goes on. We also got to see more of the stealth mechanics, a good bit of the game's verticality, and we got to witness Larian Studios repair a tear in the weave, or should I say multiple tears. And perhaps the best part of that day, at least for myself, was the reveal of the beautiful but crazy deadly Underdark that us fans voted for Sven to go to, as opposed to talking to Dror Ragzlin. With only seconds to spare, Sven made it to the Myconid village, and then the D&D live event kicked Baldur's Gate 3 away.
Get off my lawn.
2 months later, Early Access did not release, but we did get our first Panel from Hell experience. And I gotta say that the Panel from Hells may be the best development updates a company has ever done in the gaming industry, at least in my experience. The first major reveal was the final part of the intro cinematic, where the Nautiloid ship, which we the players are currently on, plane shifts to the 9 Hells. Mind Flayers, the Dead 3, Gith Yankees, and the 9 Hells to think about now. Larian has quite the platforming. Sven donned in highly movement-restricting paladin armor allowed us to watch some player agency being demonstrated with a fairly disturbing Lae'zel brain scene. We also got to see some fine familiar gameplay, and to end the day, we got the new Early Access release date of September 30th. Surprise, that didn't happen either. Not long after the Panel from Hell, we got another creative community update, but this time it was rated X. And around this time, Larian pushed the EA release date from September 30th to October 6th, which is when Early Access officially did begin. Despite several bugs, glitchy cinematics, and optimization issues, fans seem to be absolutely loving it. And what does that tell you about a game? Most players seem to be able to look over any of the immediate negatives, many of which are to be expected with an unfinished game, and truly see the massive potential that the CRPG actually has come its release. Even though you could technically speedrun Early Access to get to the end in a world record time of 7 minutes, most players found themselves spending anywhere from 30 to 70 plus hours on their first run. Once you add in the replayability factor to this game with its vast amount of different outcomes depending on player choice, and we have an Early Access, which is only one act of the game, that also offers more content than many full games released at the same price level. The launch was closely followed by some hotfixes in patches 1 and 2, which are nothing too exciting to talk about. These patches were mainly focused on addressing bugs and slightly polishing up a few things such as the cinematics. Patch 3, which came out in December of 2020, was where we really started to see some significant changes. One of the best being that the companions will now be able to follow a player who jumps over something, if of course they are able to do that jump in the first place. This was a huge quality of life improvement. As many of you remember, it was very frustrating having to jump all of the characters. Other major changes included companion approval ratings no longer going off when you are nowhere near a companion. For example, you may have a conversation with Astarion in the Druid's Enclave, and then out of nowhere you see that Shadowheart disapproves when she's not even in your party and is back at your camp. The system is still not perfect, but it is getting better. In patch 3, Larian also allowed us players to earn XP for avoiding combat, and this could come in the form of handling a dialogue situation in a rather clever manner, or solid snaking your way past a heavily guarded area. This particular update was absolutely needed because without it, players are more incentivized to just kill everything that moves to get max XP. And the last major change, and one of my favorite to date, was making it so that cantrips no longer create surfaces on impact. Before, you would hit an enemy with Firebolt and the ground would also light on fire. Now, the targets would actually have to be standing in a flammable surface for that to occur. It was even more annoying when enemies used these cantrips on you and your party, as it seemed like every combat encounter you were standing in some type of deadly surface. DOS 2 players, please stand up. One more quick thing that I'll add about patch 3 is that spells now have their own clickable menus, so you can select which level you want to cast it at. because before we had to fill our hotbar with, for example, Guiding Bolt level 1 and a separate icon for Guiding Bolt level 2, and this took up a lot of unnecessary room. Now it's time for Larian to give us another panel from Hell, the panel from Hell 2, which took place on February 17th of 2021. And this is where we learned all about patch 4 alongside our favorite cow, and a couple tears in the weave.
You got a camera problem. Shit.
Patch 4 brought with it the addition of the Druid class, with the Circle of the Moon and the Circle of the Land subclasses. This was a really fun patch that also introduced 13 new spells to the game. Larian also implemented an optional loaded dice option, which at the time evened out the extremes of the bell curve for the game's RNG. So basically it made it harder for players to be extremely unlucky multiple times in a row, but also harder for them to be extremely lucky multiple times in a row. In the game's current version, they still allow for players to be lucky multiple times in a row. This was a fairly controversial addition to the game, but with it being optional, I think that mostly everyone eventually ended up being okay with it. And the last major update with patch 4 was the addition of cinematics to go along with the Speak with Dead spell, and what a fun spell that is to use now. Patch 5 was introduced to us with another panel from Hell, but this time Larian really took it to the next level. We got ourselves a full LARPG experience, which I have to say was very cleverly done in a very Larian-esque way. Patch 5 is currently the most recent patch, which launched in July of this year, 2021. But some of you in the future may be watching this video with patch 6 already out, along with the next panel from Hell. Patch 5 was a really exciting patch to experience, and it didn't even come with a new class. This patch was focused on core features in the game, most notable being the addition of camp supplies. Common feedback to Larian up to this point has been that taking long rests in the game was far too easy, as you could basically use the long rest whenever and almost wherever you wanted with the click of a button. And this in turn made the short rest feature kind of pointless, and therefore created unbalance between the classes. And it also made spell slot management not really necessary, which also in turn created more unbalance between the classes. With the introduction of camp supplies, players are now required to have some food to complete a full rest. After completing a playthrough with patch 5, I will say though that with the amount of food and camp supplies present in the game, players could still probably spam the long rest, but overall I do think it's an improvement and a step in the right direction. This is also a very divisive topic, so maybe some of the resting mechanics will end up tying into difficulty levels of the game and we can all be happy. Patch 5 brought with it several mini camps, which were introduced to the game, which made it so that if you rest in the Underdark, you don't appear at the Forest camp. You'll rest in an Underdark themed camp, and there's many other examples of that as well. I think most people enjoyed this addition, and it certainly helped a lot with the immersion of the game. Disengage and jump were both separated from each other, and disengage now costs an action to use. The AI got noticeably smarter with this patch. We got a new and improved active roll system, which seems to be loved by all players. Our characters' backgrounds now come into play with the addition of background goals, which is kind of like a mini side quest system that gives your character's background choice some actual significance. We got some new cinematic scenes, especially when dealing with Shadowheart, and a point-and-click dialogue system was added, which was kind of really annoying until I learned that you could tone it down a bit in the game settings. Now I love it. And that is where we stand as of today, October 9th of 2021. Over a year of early access and over 4 years of development, and we now know that patch 6 is also right around the corner and will bring with it the sorcerer class. Those of you who have been here for this entire epic journey, either with Larian or with me on this channel, I really appreciate you guys. Make sure to leave a comment below. There's much more to come in the future, and I'll catch you guys soon.